Many thanks to DayZ Podcast, Pandemonium, Fearless Rection Vanilla Servers, Atlas, Mutated Jurassic Outbreak Servers, One Original DayZ Servers, Dust Vanilla Servers, Sheriff Line, Apocalypse Now Server, Sauerkraut, and Survival Instinct Vanilla Server for making this video possible. DayZ 1.22 has significantly increased how much damage we take from melee weapons and infected, but there's also been major nerfs to the gear that protects us from these attacks too. So in this video we're going to look at the ways to stop getting one-hit KO this patch, check out the new 5-tier ranking system for clothing items, and go over what the devs said about all these changes during their livestream. During a very recent developer livestream, the devs briefly spoke about all the melee weapon changes and protection changes to items that we've seen in this patch and explained their intention too. Basically, the idea is to streamline DayZ stats into several different tiers, such as the 5 tiers that we have for melee weapons that we discussed in the last video, but they've also added this tier system to clothing and armor in 1.22, which could also spill over into firearms, ammunition, attachments, and even food items in the future, making this extremely detailed world of DayZ stats much easier for the average DayZ player to understand. Along with these changes comes fantastic upgrades in the way that gear protects us from bleeding too. So in the last patch, the sharpness of a melee weapon determined the bleed chance of it, with the pickaxe for example causing a bleed every single hit, even if the victim had decent clothing that was fully pristine. Now in 1.22, the sharpness stat has been nerfed across the board on sharp weapons, so not only does the pickaxe have 20% less sharpness this patch due to it being a tier 4 melee weapon, but also clothing has blood protection stats on it now to protect us in melee combat against infected and player bleeds. So again, in the case of the pickaxe, like I said, it was 100% bleed chance per hit last patch, but now because the bleed chance formula changed too, it's 62%. So even though it was reduced by 20%, the formula also changes it lower to 62%, and this is against a t-shirt which offers no protection from damage at all. Now when putting on a decent piece of clothing such as the buffed M65 field jacket this patch, the bleed chances are halved compared to last patch. Even though the blood protection stat is the same from last patch to this patch, it is 50% less likely that you're going to get a bleed in this patch. This means, at least against melee weapons and infected, we're going to see a lot less bleeds this patch on items that offer blood protection stats. Because of these changes, many pieces of clothing have had their blood protection reduced to 0, with health and shock damage getting nerfed too. So as a result, this is a net nerf for clothing. It protects us less in this patch, so that means that melee weapon attacks and infected attacks will hurt us more. These changes span across several different categories of clothing such as tops, pants, gloves, shoes, vests and headgear, but instead of covering every single stat change this patch, I'm going to list a few items in each of the clothing tiers just to give you an idea of which items are in each tier. Tier 1 clothing has items like shoes that we spawn with, NBC pants, long sleeve shirts, tracksuit tops and raincoats, all of which had no protection in the last patch, now getting buffed a measly 5 health protection from players and infected, which means that melee attacks and infected attacks will do 5% less health damage against tier 1 clothing. The items that got nerfed but placed into tier 1 are the items like the sweater, hoodie, hiking top, tactical shirt and patrol top, which results in pretty significant nerfs here. The patrol top, which only spawns in military locations, it is waterproof, but also the material is very thin, hence why I believe it was put into tier 1. Moving to tier 2 clothing, the working gloves now offer some protection they didn't in the last patch. The wool coat has been nerfed very slightly, and the TTSKO top has seen a significant nerf. Tier 3 offers moderate protection and contains items like the BDU pants, firefighter pants and hunter pants. Tier 4 clothing offers good protection, buffing the medieval boots that didn't have any melee protection stats last patch. The tactical gloves now offer protection too, with the firefighter jacket and field jacket getting a buff too. Tier 4 also has the rider's jacket in it, which is a pretty big nerf compared to last patch. You're looking at almost twice the amount of damage you're going to take while wearing the rider's jacket now against melee attacks, and the only tier 5 item I could find that got changes in 1.22 were the military or assault boots. The tier system for clothing wasn't as easy to identify as melee weapon tiers. Melee weapon tiers are much more fleshed out, with some items having very unique stats that didn't fit into any tiers, so the tier systems, at the moment at least, are very much a work in progress. If you didn't know, the mace and sledgehammer heavy attack now inflicts 75 shock damage because these are both blunt tier 5 weapons, and the heavy attack, as you can see here, is 75 shock damage, which is the exact amount of shock damage that's required to KO a player, resulting in these two weapons one-hit KOing players in this patch. So after testing multiple pieces of clothing, there is one surefire way to protect yourself against getting one hit KO'd, and that's simply by wearing any piece of clothing that offers shock protection. Because the heavy attack inflicts exactly 75 shock damage, one shock protection is going to be enough to protect you completely from getting one hit KO'd. So from the list of clothing items that were changed in this patch, these are all the items that offer shock protection. Do be aware, however, that if the heavy attack ruins the piece of clothing during its attack, that piece of clothing won't reduce shock damage or any type of damage against you, and you will still get one hit KO'd, so keeping your clothing repaired is highly recommended. No other stats on clothing were changed in this patch, so insulation, absorbency and cargo size, or even the health of the item, the durability of the item, that hasn't changed. And this goes for ballistic and explosive protection too, so these clothing items didn't change on how they protect you from bullets and grenades, just melee and infected attacks get less protected this patch. In the next video, I'll cover the new tier system for all of the armor pieces in DayZ, so the huge changes to chainmail, vests and helmets, and how they will make you immune to bleeds now, along with explaining how armor gets ruined much faster this patch. Another new tier system is a 5-tier system governing melee weapons now, with monstrous damage changes to melee combat that you can see in this video here. And finally for this video, every month on Xbox, the Apocalypse Now server gives away up to $1,000 in cash prizes during their server events, with this month's event being a huge $500 for winning their scavenger hunt event. For more details on how you can win that, join the Apocalypse Now server on Xbox, or you can join their Discord using the link below. Also, don't forget to give your feedback below to the devs on these changes. They are massive changes this patch. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.